son. Where'd you find this?
Just do it! Make your dreams come true!
A few moments later.
You are now listening to Podcast 42, the world's most popular, inaccurate, and sometimes squirreled retelling of pop culture history.
I've never seen anyone pop a pea. How do you pop
how do you pop a pea? Do you drop it like it's hot? Do you pop
It's
it
when you...
pop?
Exactly.
Pop it, pop.
Oh,
No,
so like a poppet popping peas?
You know, when we go to normalize the sound now, it's not
Who
going
is
to work.
that?
Because we have all these hard keys now.
Who's a hard pea?
Speaking of hard peas, it's time for Podcast 42. I'm Christopher DeVos.
I'm James Duncan.
I'm Nicole Fasson.
And I'm JL Tros.
Hey, everybody.
Well, let's get right into it. Let's open up that beer cooler.
JL beer cooler, it's cooler than you think. JL beer cooler, it's cool enough to drink. It's cool enough to drink, yeah.
You had a guest stopper today.
I did.
Beer cooler.
And you know what? I'm happily surprised to see what she brought, but I want her to describe it. As
Okay.
James is overflowing already like it's the first time he's had a beer.
And he just soaked the script.
Well,
And myself.
To
And that's
be
why
fair-
he can't pronounce certain words. The truth is out.
to be fair, all of these beers foamed when we opened them, and I don't know why JL tried to blame it on me, but it was not
Because you
my
shook
fault.
him.
I did not shake the beer.
Did you bring him in?
Give me some credit. Anyway, so it's from Three Daughters Brewing, and that's from St. Petersburg, Florida, where I was this week with Faraz. And yes. And I brought us back the Coffee Blonde Ale. It is a blonde ale, as you can tell. It does have coffee undertones to it. I'm sorry, I have a koozie on, so if there's anything on label, I have to take it out to read it.
It's a
Says-
5.0% ABV.
It says, the rebellious blonde, don't let this rich coffee flavor fool you. This one is a bright, slightly sweet, golden blonde ale. Let her surprising twist take your taste buds for a ride. Chris, what does that face mean?
That means I'm going to have to drink a little bit more before I make
Yes.
a decision.
All right.
I like the label, Chris.
I do like the label.
Do you
know
like
what
the
I
label?
You know what I like the most about the label?
What?
Is the bitterness to sweet level and where the gauge is.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Where do you see that?
It's on the side where it's telling you not to forget to recycle.
Oh, okay. There's a little arrow in a hand.
Yeah, and it's low on the IBUs because it's only 23, so it's not a bitter beer. It's supposed to be a sweeter beer.
Well, I give the label a 4.
Well, it is a very strong coffee taste, and that's what I like about it, because most coffee beers are usually a porter or a stout, and an ale is really not all that bad. It's a little lighter than those are. So, Chris, I think you'll warm up to it the more you drink it.
We might. We'll come back to it at the end. We'll give you the ratings.
Sounds good?
So this week we are talking about the show Seinfeld.
Yay!
And 3 of us...
Never seen it.
3 of us has never seen it?
You've
No.
seen it, JL.
You've seen it.
You're so full of shit.
3 of us have seen it, including JL. He's part of that 3, and one of us, not so
Is
much.
not from the U.S., so he hasn't really
I
watched
watched
it.
some
so
today.
wrong.
You watched
I
a
watched
little.
some clips and an episode, and I will summarize my Seinfeld in a moment or 5.
Okay, because I was going to ask you right now, unless you want to wait, what were your thoughts? What are your initial thoughts? Because this was like the TV
Yeah,
show
I can
for a long, long time.
But like all like, I'm gonna sound. It reminded me of Jewish Friends.
That's the point.
But it
They're
was-
all Jewish and living in New York City. That's the point.
And then it was
It's
like,
funny you two say that. That'll come up in the script.
Of
and
course
then
it will.
I kind of went like, I don't know, just sat there going, why is it moving so fast? Like, I've got a longer attention span than the 30 seconds you're giving me per scene. And we're going to talk really fast like this, and we're going to go back, and then we're going to go, bing, 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 and next scene. And that was it. That's how I kind of felt. And I was like, I can't get into this because also you kind of, I don't know where you started me in the series. I had no idea who anyone
It was a best of that they sent you.
Well, I had him watch the best of clips that Chris had sent us for research, and then I put on one of the episodes that was featured in the clips. The one where Jerry was dating a girl, and
Oh, that
she
narrows
didn't
it
think
down.
he would. Yeah, I know, it does narrow it down, right? she didn't think he was funny, and then he met her roommate, and she thought he was funny, so he wanted to do the roommate switch, and they were like, it can't be done. And then they spent all night studying to figure out how the roommate switch could be done, and they tried to do it, and then the girl was all into the idea that they had come up with.
You know, I'm kind of surprised, James. I thought you would be all over it.
No, I just kind of... I don't know.
I also feel like he didn't really invest in it. Like,
I watched it, but like it was hard. I think I could have done with probably maybe like 10 episodes.
I will pick out the top
That's
10
pretty
episodes
much
for you
how
to
long
watch
season
after
1
this.
was.
No,
Yeah,
the
for
first
sure.
season was about 4 or 5 episodes, actually.
But it was, I don't know, I didn't dislike it. I just kind of felt it was so rapid paced that without really having a clue what's going on, I left was the kind of character development. No, yeah, maybe.
You were expecting too much.
Well, no, because I've heard like things about it. Seinfeld's obviously was shown in the UK on.
Did they show it in the UK?
Yeah, they showed it. It was like I think they used to show it on one of our networks, the free to broadcast networks at lunchtime kind of thing. So it was always there, but
Yeah, maybe a couple more episodes. I really think you'll like it.
I mean, the Kramer character kind of
I could see that.
like kind of had the intrigue because of the lunacy.
Oh, good. I'll find some good Kramer episodes for you.
Because as you all know, I'm not a lunatic.
What? Not at all.
The lunatic is on the grass. Well, we got a new segment to introduce before we get into the script. It's going to be just 5 trivia questions. This week it's trivia about nothing.
Because Seinfeld is a show about nothing.
And this will just kind of gauge the panel here, the cast, what are we? Are we a cast?
Ensemble.
Cast and crew.
The hosts.
Ensemble. Stars.
There-
As Chris Hunt does not like them to refer to us as.
There's no S
We
in
are
it.
the
There's only
stars.
one.
We're a team. We are the Revengers.
It's JL and the rest of us are in the shadow. We're not worthy. We're not worthy. So we'll just kind of gauge where the listener is at and where we're at, and then we'll move into the main meat of the topic. So get your pens and paper ready.
Pens and paper.
And we have the James rule. If you do not know the answer, you may write down what you think would be funny.
Is this like the trivia where we pass it off to somebody else to read the answers, or are we reading our own
You can
answers?
read your own. You can
It's
read your
not.
own.
It's not as strict as.
No. There's nobody wins.
Oh,
So question number 1. What causes George's fiancée Susan to die? And these are very any Seinfeld viewer should get all of these.
We're going to do all the questions and then reveal our answers.
Yes.
Correct? Okay, perfect.
Question number 2. Who is Jerry's nemesis in the building? His building. Jerry's building.
This is too long to answer to be the right answer.
James is writing a lot.
He
James
is
is
writing
writing
a
a
funny
soliloquy.
answer.
I could give a hint, but that would give it away.
I could give a hint. You saw him today on one of the episodes.
James saw him today on that episode?
Yes, if he was paying attention at all.
Question number 3. What catalog did Elaine run when her boss moved to Burma? What catalog did Elaine run when her boss moved to Burma? Oh, Nicole's thinking you're going to kick yourself if you don't get this.
I'm going to kick myself if I don't get this.
J.L. has been swift in his writing every time. He worries me. He's like the pop culture expert. James is mad. He's like,
I'm just. It's great. I have no idea. So nonsense is what you will receive. Yeah, I have not a clue.
Question 4. What is Kramer's first name?
Oh, jeez, it was just in the episode.
Yes, it
Was
was,
it in the
in the
episode?
episode that he watched today.
Oh, she set you up good.
Yeah.
I did.
And the only trouble is now all I can think of is Mork and Mindy. And I don't know why. Dang it.
I can actually see that.
Yeah, because it's the shit.
What is
No, I don't think
I
that's his
totally
name.
made him watch the perfect episode today
Yeah.
because 2 of
The keys?
answers. No,
Oh.
the switch. The one with the girlfriend and the roommate. Oh, that
it
came up
was
in that episode.
Stardust.
I'd rather watch the 2-parter
You're
with
so
Keith
close.
Hernandez.
You're
And then
actually really close,
And then he met
James.
his mom. And then the mom quit because she was the
Spit it out.
You were so close.
she was a matron at the restaurant that George was taking his girlfriend because he wanted to see if she was refunding because he was paying for those meals and he didn't want to date somebody who was refunding all of her food so she could stay skinny. So then he wanted to meet Cosmo's mom.
Oh, I got a good one. See, Stardust, I was there.
That's why I said you were close.
Alright.
So moving on.
Yeah, all right.
We all get one! Thanks, Nicole, even though I knew the answer.
Last question. Try not to give this one away.
I'll try.
Dumb butt.
When George and Jerry wrote a pilot for NBC, what was it about? George and Jerry wrote a pilot for NBC in the show. What was it about? Pencils down. The answer's not Cosmo.
That would happen.
Segment blown.
I'm
First
sorry.
segment already blown.
Wow,
Sorry.
and this is her show.
All right. I know, this is all for Nicole.
All right, first question. What causes George's fiancée Susan to die, James?
She was struck on the head by a hot air balloon ladder.
By a hot air balloon what?
Ladder, the thing that you falls down from the
Oh,
high.
I thought you
okay.
said bladder.
That's what I thought he said too. Because if you said letter, that was close. Nicole?
Licking the wedding invitations envelopes.
Jail?
That's exactly it. She got poisoned from the glue on the envelopes from
Ding,
licking
ding,
them.
ding. That's right.
Didn't get one for the ladder. Dang
No,
it.
she licks the cheap wedding invitation George buys and is poisoned. Question 2. Who is Jerry's nemesis in his building?
So originally I went with the creepy Asian kid that had the pirate leg, but
Was that in a show?
I don't know. I just kind of that's what I was thinking. He's a nemesis for Jerry's, you know.
Okay. 'Cause
But
that sounds
I think-
like it could be in the show.
But then Nicole gave it away, and it was the postman guy from Jurassic Park.
Yes, what was his name?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Half a point. Hello, Newman.
Newman.
Deal, babe.
Newman's correct. What catalog did Elaine run when her boss moved to Burma?
I'm totally gonna kick
The
this.
Burt Reynolds Men's Fashion Weekly magazine.
That's absolutely wrong.
Said the Sombrero Mag.
Oh, you're going to kick yourself.
I know.
The Peterman Vandelay Industries magazine.
You're close, but you combined some things.
Yes, I did, because I know it was when Peterman was her boss.
Vandelay is not a real thing.
It is too. All you had to do was answer the phone and say Vandelay
Vandelay
Industries.
Industries! That was-
It's J. Peterman. That was the name of the catalog.
That was it. I knew it. I knew there was just something with Peterman in there.
And of course, we all know Kramer's first name now.
Stardust.
Stardust.
Cosmo!
Stardust Kramer.
Stardust
And then when
Kramer.
George and Jerry wrote a pilot for NBC, what was it about, James?
Mythical creatures who have to be caught in little red balls.
Almost.
Nothing!
Jail?
It's about nothing, but I really like James's answer.
It's about nothing.
It was about nothing.
That's why it's trivia about nothing.
Bum, bum.
All
right, let's move into the script. This was Nicole's pick, so Nicole, you're going to
Nicole,
start
start us off.
Notice that I pick all the very Jewy topics.
I did notice that.
Oh, I can't wait till we do the Gary biography.
Seinfeld is a television sitcom that ran for 9 seasons on NBC from 1989 to 1998. It was created by Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld. The main character is played by Jerry Seinfeld. It is set mostly in an apartment building in Manhattan's Upper West Side in New York City. The show also features a handful of Jerry Seinfeld's friends and acquaintances. Best friend George Costanza, played by Jason Alexander. Former girlfriend Elaine Bennis, played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus. And the neighbor across the hall, Cosmo Kramer, played by Michael Richards. The show is often described as being a show about nothing.
Now, I always liked Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
She was very good. All of them
Especially
were...
in Christmas Vacation.
I have a secret crush on. She was in Christmas Vacation.
Yeah, she played the neighbor.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, and that's where I recognized her from. Ding, ding,
Oh, that's
ding.
right. She was.
She wore the big 80s padded shouldered things with the
Which
annoying
was
guy.
essentially the same costume she wore throughout
Yeah,
all of
now it all makes
Seinfeld.
like sense.
Okay.
So, Seinfeld was a favorite among critics, and the series led the Nielsen ratings in seasons 6 and 9, which is really confusing because it did well in 6 and 9, but nothing else.
No, it did well
All along.
all along.
It
just...
led in 6 and 9.
And it finished among the top 2 alongside with NBC's ER every year from 1994 to 1998, the 20 years. Seinfeld is widely considered to be one of the greatest and most influential sitcoms ever made. It has been ranked among the best television shows of all time in publications such as Entertainment Weekly, Rolling Stone, and the TV Guide. Is that the red button that you press and it pops up now?
It is now.
In 2013, the Writers Guild of America voted it...
Oh, I get it. Sorry, it took me a minute. I'm like, what?
Still with the cruise break.
Like you were like,
am.
oh yes. So the the Writers Guild of America voted number 2 in the best written TV series of all time, second to The Sopranos, which still has the worst ending.
So they did this right before the finale.
Yeah. He named it the series the number one reason the 90s rose, and it wasn't just for someone's sweaters.
Now, you mentioned The Sopranos and the worst ending. Seinfeld also had one of the worst endings.
Oh, really?
Yes, it did.
It did have a pretty
Did it
terrible...
fade to black?
No, but
No,
the finale
but-
is still awful.
Yeah,
Just
it's-
like How I Met Your Mother, Nicole?
Don't give that away. Some people may not watch
It
that.
wasn't the... I know a lot of people are upset with that ending. I just watched it yesterday. I knew what happened the whole time, but watching it, I was like,
Are we still talking about Seinfeld?
No.
no, we're talking about How I Met Your Mother. It was okay. It
So
was-
don't worry, she was quoting Star Wars and defending a 40-year-old movie to me today. And I had to explain, yes, but it's 40 years old, Nicole.
She was defending it?
Yeah, she just got on the Star Wars.
She got on a Star Wars high horse and
Yeah.
whatever.
Oh, nice.
I still can't
You
wait.
officially ascended into nerddom. Welcome.
Yep.
I finished
Welcome.
the original trilogy. Yes.
It's amazing. Wow.
Yes,
I can't
40 years
believe-
later is what James said.
Yep, only 35 after the last one came out for the original. But you know what? Let's go back to top and find out how the show came to be. Because in 1981, Jerry Seinfeld appeared on The Tonight Show. After his set, Johnny Carson, the host, gave him the okay sign. This was the ultimate compliment to comics at the time. Carson's okay meant that you had the seal of approval from one of the most beloved late-night hosts of all time. It also was noticed by television executives, managers, and producers. Jerry himself used this appearance on The Tonight Show as the most significant of his career. Seinfeld's managers soon wrote a letter to Brandon Tartikoff, who was the head of NBC at the time, and said, quote, "Call me a crazy guy, but I feel that Jerry Seinfeld will soon be doing a series for NBC." He would continue to send press releases and newspaper articles on Jerry until finally Tartikoff agreed to a meeting.
Now, this is back before the internet, so actually Carson's seal of approval was, like, the biggest deal at the time. If you liked a comedian, that comedian skyrocketed in his career.
Yeah, because that was like the show to be on back then.
Yes. If you even made it to the Tonight Show, you had a career, but then to get his okay sign, that was like the extra whipped cream on the cake.
I'll say this much. If you want to see a little bit more information about how Jerry Seinfeld started, Netflix has a series called, a special called Jerry Before Seinfeld, where he talks a lot about his early days and starting out as a comedian and getting really into starting the series of Seinfeld. So check that out as well if you
Cool.
want to learn a little bit more past what we covered today.
And Netflix can give us some money for the plug.
Yeah.
Seinfeld jokingly says that he didn't want to do the meeting because it was an afternoon meeting. It messed up the whole reason he was a comedian in the first place, which was to have 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. free every day. That Jerry. At the meeting, the NBC executives asked Jerry what he had in mind to do. A late night talk show, a TV special, a TV series. Jerry responded with what he thought. Jerry responded with that he thought just having this meeting was making it, and that was all he had. He had no ideas except he wanted to do something as himself. You see, Jerry Seinfeld had a semi-regular role on the TV show Benson. He had a tough time not having any control over what he was supposed to say or do. He was actually fired from Benson, although he didn't find out until he showed up Monday morning for the table read and was scriptless. It was then he was pulled aside and told he no longer was on the show.
It's sad.
Now, I watched Benson. I don't remember Jerry Seinfeld on it.
You watched it after he was fired.
I must have.
Jerry went back to New York and met up with fellow comedian Larry David, whom he worked with on New York's Catch a Rising Star Comedy Club with. He told David that NBC offered him a show and asked would he like to work with him on it. So the two set off for the local Korean grocery store to get something to eat. As they were walking through the aisles and making fun of the products, David observed that their conversation wasn't something you generally heard on TV. David said to Seinfeld that this is what the show should be about, making fun of things. Jerry said okay, but that's not a show. It ended up being what Seinfeld, the TV show, would become.
So Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld were first introduced at a birthday party where Larry David had given the comedian named Carol Leifer a stand-up routine he had written as a present. Is that right, Leifer? I don't know.
Leifer.
Leifer, yeah.
Where do I know her from?
Lifer.
She's been around, but I don't know if she's done anything like big, but she's a comedian that if you saw her, you'd be like, yeah. I've
That
seen her.
person.
Yeah.
Alright. He gave this to her because he had no money for an actual birthday present. Carol was too drunk to read it, so she asked Jerry to read it, which got Jerry some big laughs. David and Seinfeld decided that with David's writing and Jerry's voice, they would work together. Well, Jerry said that Larry David was the only real writer he knew because Larry had actually written a movie script, and in order for him to be successful in the TV, he needed to be a real writer. Plus, they were often on the same page when it comes to things. Oh, yes, sorry, I just...
And I will join in and say that...
Jason's so excited!
James was on a roll. He's not stopping. He reads the whole script.
I just saw this line and I didn't realize it stopped. I'm sorry.
I was okay with that because I just kind of went, well, they gave James the smallest paragraph ever, so that's
fine.
He can have that.
There's lots of small paragraphs.
And they're all in my name this week.
Yeah, they all say JD right by them.
I thought it was another one. I just decided to do my own script.
That's fine.
Hey, it worked. The next night after the Korean grocery, they went to a diner and sat in a booth to discuss the premise of the show. They didn't know how to work into a show that was going to be about inane conversation. No, it's more insane.
See, I didn't even mess up like that.
No, it's insane. You just gotta watch Kramer talk sometimes. They decided it was going to be about where a comedian gets his material for his act, and it would be a 90-minute special where they just follow Jerry around with a single camera for a week and see how he got his inspirations. You know, that explains a lot for how they started the show, especially in the early seasons with his stand-up. Mm-hmm. Then you would see how Jerry formed it into a comedy routine, with it ending with Jerry actually performing the routine. They figured it would run on a night that Saturday Night Live was off. Jerry figured 90 minutes was way too long and it would only work as a 30-minute thing, so they turned it into a TV show instead. For the pilot, they decided they needed another character, which they named George, but based it off of Larry David's personality.
It makes so much sense.
Guess...
George is such a fantastic character to be opposite Jerry. The two of them just work so well together.
He was a little short, fat one, right?
Yes.
He was
Jason Alexander.
dating some hot model thing, and I was like, yeah, that wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Alright.
Did you watch Curb Your Enthusiasm?
No.
No? Okay.
No.
I didn't either, but if you did, then you kind of get an insight into Larry David. Because he went on to do Curb Your Enthusiasm after Seinfeld.
I never really cared for Curb Your Enthusiasm. I always thought Seinfeld was a little better comedy. I thought Curb Your Enthusiasm was a little too crass, where the comedy didn't really come across unless you were open to that kind of humor.
Well, that's Larry David, though.
I don't know.
Yeah,
it always felt like they just made him seem to be the grumpy guy.
But Seinfeld at least was the nice, comedy that everybody could agree on that wasn't too dark or too inappropriate.
Except for James. He doesn't think it's funny.
Oh.
No, yeah, I think you would like it if you watched a couple more episodes.
I will pick out a few more episodes for him to watch, and I'm sure maybe he'll come around.
They pitched the show to Rob Reiner at Castle Rock, who loved the idea and thought the annoyed Larry David or George character worked well with the likable Jerry Seinfeld character. The network asked Seinfeld who he's going to work with, and he said Larry David, to which the network said, Who? Larry David was a stand-up who started in the late 1970s. The other comedians liked to watch David perform because he would often get mad at the audience and cuss them out. In 1979, he worked on a TV show called Fridays, which was a clone of Saturday Night Live, and it's awful. It was terrible. I remember watching it when it first came out, because that was like another Saturday Night Live on Fridays, and it's on YouTube. Watch it. You won't be able to get through it. After that ended, he worked for Saturday Night Live for 1 year, where he was only able to get one skit on the air. He told the executive producer that he quit and the show stinks. When he got home, he realized that he was now jobless. His next-door neighbor at the time, who was named Kramer, told David just to go back and pretend it never happened. David did not do this, but it did become a Seinfeld episode.
It did, because George quit his job, and then Jerry's like, just go back, see what happens.
Which job was that?
Vandalay Industries.
It was not Vandalay Industries. That was
that the one where the boss had the picture of him where they were on the beach where they threw his boombox in the water?
It was the aluminium salesman.
Way to throw that in there.
I think it might have been that one that you mentioned, JL, but I think it was also the one where the guy was telling him that the ocean was running out of shrimp. He said, the jerk store is running out of you. I think it was that, probably. I don't keep... George had so many jobs over the years. It's hard to keep track of them all. Okay, just laugh at me. They pitched the show to NBC, and David said it went very similar to when, in the actual show, Jerry and George pitched their show to NBC. David pitched it as a one-camera show, and NBC wanted a three-camera show. The difference in cameras is basically a one-camera show is shot like a film, while a three-camera show is shot in front of a live studio audience. David told them in no way where they're going to change. David told them in no way were they going to change the show, and they could take it or leave it. Jerry reminded David of the $25,000 they were going to get paid to do the pilot, and then David reconsidered his stance. NBC was unsure what to do, but decided that they were not going to spend a lot of money anyway, and told them to produce a script. They would take a chance on it.
It's because Larry David was broke. What's going on over there? Are you two fighting secretly behind the script?
I'm trying to read, and James is doing this in the background. And for those of you who can't see, he's basically just moving his lips like it's gibberish to try and mess me up. So I've been flipping him off while trying to keep my composure reading the script.
You
can't keep your composure.
Separated because we can do that. And you can still be heard on the podcast.
I know, it's great. I could be in another room.
Yes.
It could be there. Hi, Nicole's mum. I was
Antagonizing.
Yes. Be proud of me. The pilot plots dealt with a woman who was coming to New York and wanted to stay with Jerry. As you know, he wanted to go and stay with Jerry because if that's what the one thing I'd want to go and do if I went to New York.
You might
stay with Jerry.
Stay with a comedian.
Yeah. You're making popping noises into the microphone. That's
I'm trying not to.
I know, you're trying to get me back, but it's not working.
I know,
You're
your top's coming off your microphone.
And what did that entail exactly? And how does one ask such a question? The script didn't take long to write, and Seinfeld and David actually said they had a lot of fun writing it. They had it in with the title Stand Up. NBC thought the script was a mess, and the show needed someone with more experience than David, but greenlit the pilot anyway. A week later, David discovered about a third of the script had been rewritten. He, of course, was upset. They went back to Castle Rock, which really does sound like a villain's place. Like, we're going to go to Castle Rock to defend Castle Rock to battle it out. In the end, the script was still doctored somewhat, but David was able to get some of his material back in. David says to this day he does not like that episode. Guess what?
It's my turn! It's my turn! James isn't going to take it this time.
That was actually not a terrible episode because she comes to visit Seinfeld and he's like, oh yeah, like this girl's coming to visit, she's going to stay at my place, and then she's at his place and she's like, oh, I just got to give my boyfriend a call. And he's like, wait, you have a boyfriend and you're staying at my place and I'm letting you stay at my place? Like, this is not...
Well, it's a terrible episode if you spend the entire time writing it and then NBC goes, take this out, we're going to rewrite that.
There's corporate for you.
I mean, it's like your scripts for Podcast 42. We hand them to Chris and he just tears them apart.
Proofreads them and then gives us his script anyways.
Well, you can tell I don't proofread it.
I think you do. You know where to put everything for what I should read. So, I know where that is.
Where is that?
It's right here.
The next thing started the process of casting.
Yes. Thank you. I had to find myself. Next, they started the process of casting. David felt that he could not act and write at the same time. That was just way too much. Plus, he thought NBC wouldn't want him anyways, so they set about looking for someone who could interact with Jerry like David did. Jason Alexander's name came up from a role in a show that he played in called ER. This show was a sitcom and not the ER drama that would later come. Alexander was sent 3 or 4 pages, which he had to read on tape. He decided to play it like a Woody Allen film. He had no context to work with and just did his own take on it. In fact, Alexander did a straight-out Woody Allen impersonation. Alexander had glasses for his audition, and the fact that he was slightly overweight and balding helped him land the role. The thing they liked him was the gestures he made while talking. No other actor was considered except for Larry Miller. Miller and Seinfeld were best friends, so Alexander figured he already didn't have the part, so he was really surprised when he got the call.
There was an ER comedy show, and it was straight-up comedy.
Yeah, it was called Doogie Howser, MD.
No, it was actually called ER.
So what did they do? Like, it was like Scrubs?
Yeah, like Scrubs,
but it was
Scrubs is like shot like the one camera, as discussed, and this was a 3 camera.
Oh.
So I had a live studio audience and everything. It was kind of cheesy.
And you can't say that on television.
I love that show.
When you're done listening to this, here is something else you can sink your ear holes into.
Hey, this is Chris from Podcast 42. Muggsy hails from north of Sydney, Australia. He draws inspiration and style from the roots of hip-hop and rap. Such artists as Eminem, Tupac, Biggie, and DMX are just some of the greats that have influenced and cultivated his unique blend of grit, raw lyrics, and aggression. Muggsy's rap speaks of truth, a hard, raw truth. A truth that will speak to anyone that has ever had to face self-doubt, lack of confidence, and life. Muggsy's music will tell you how it is. To learn more, follow Muggsy on Facebook to get all important updates on music releases, concert dates, and merch. This is a track called Understand Me from the album of the same name, and here is a little taste.
On the hip-hop music, just breathing that air for something to use it. It's amazing how these people look at you different, because you're not the same, man, it's just so infant. What do you want me to be, just like you? Nah, 1 + 1 for me doesn't equal 2. How is it when this world works, but these people don't pull you in, so all it does is hurt? No respect and no love. There will never be a change when these people will all rise above. It's a democracy, so approximately my rage will burst out, and all you have to do is just stop with me. Increase the peace at least for once, so we can breathe without all. Yeah, getting teased, cause right now we are all crying in the rain, ripping our hair out, going insane, yeah. You don't understand me. But if the feeling was right, you might comprehend me, yeah, come on. You don't understand me. You don't understand me. But if the feeling was right, you might comprehend me. Now I'm gonna be talking about myself, a lonely wolf, and you're all the wealth. Pointing the finger is like pulling a trigger, blowing my brains out. When you call me Wigger.
This is Jack DeVos and Joe Jewett from the Over the Line Show on iHeartRadio.
You're listening to the annual Girl Scout Cookie Drive on Podcast 42.
Kramer, Jerry's next-door neighbor, was originally named Kessler. Regardless, the neighbor was based on Larry David's real-life neighbor, Kenny Kramer. Kenny Kramer pretty much acted in the same way as the TV show Kramer did. Larry David asked his neighbor if he could base the show's character on him, and Kenny Kramer agreed, only if he gets to play Kramer, to which David said no. That also ended up being in an episode of the show.
Yep.
Jerry was worried that Kenny Kramer would use the show to exploit himself with, and he did just that. You can take the Kenny Kramer bus and do the Kenny Kramer tour in New York today.
Yes, you can.
Can you?
Yep.
What's funny is that often they would work on scripts at David's apartment, and Kenny Kramer would barge in. He did it so much that Seinfeld decided he needed the name Kramer, and they changed it back from Kessler to Kramer. Michael Richards was the only person considered for the part of Kramer. I just think that's hilarious that actually...
A real-life neighbor.
Yeah, and he actually did what Kramer does on the show.
Just was a lunatic.
David worked with him on Fridays, and Jerry knew of him from his appearances on Jay Leno. Richards pretty much nailed his audition and ended it with a handstand before leaving the room.
So it's a funny story about the Kessler-Kramer kind of variance there. In the pilot episode, Kramer is referred to as Kessler when you see him enter the room and interact with Jerry and George. But in one of the much later episodes, oh gosh, I can't remember what it was called, but it was the backwards episode where they started at the end
The
of
one in India.
Yes, the one in India.
Where the lollipop just gets bigger and bigger as the episode goes on. Because George is wearing his Wolverines at the wedding because they make him, 2 inches taller?
Everybody knows you're not that tall.
They make me taller. But that's awesome.
Okay.
The lollipop gets bigger and bigger.
So the entire episode is played backwards, where you start with the end credits, and then you go to the final scene, and then you go backwards the entire time. And it's great because you can actually watch on YouTube the entire episode forwards, so it makes sense time-wise. But it's so funny to watch it backwards.
You rewind it?
The way it was produced is backwards. So anyway, the very final scene of the episode, or the first scene if you watch it forwards, is Jerry meeting Kramer. And he says, "Oh, thank you, Kessler. I really appreciate it." And he's like, "Oh no, it's Kramer." Like, he corrects him. going back to the whole variance of the two of them. The fourth character for the pilot, which
and we're back.
Good scene. The fourth character for the pilot was a waitress named Claire, played by Lee Garlington. When they started filming the pilot, David was not happy with the direction of the show. He would try to inject with ideas of how it should go, but was shut down by the director. They filmed 2 shows back to back. Afterwards, Jerry asked Jason Alexander what did he think, to which Alexander replied that he didn't think the show would go anywhere. The number 1 show at the time was Alf, and Jerry's show for people like Jason, and Jason didn't watch TV. Jerry's show was for people like Jason, and Jason didn't watch TV.
Yes, that's what he said.
That's what he said.
And Jason Alexander had the most experience at this time of acting. That's why they asked him, what did he think?
He was a Broadway star.
The show was called The Seinfeld Chronicles, and NBC executives loved the pilot. However, the test audience did not. They felt like Jerry was a weak lead, and the background players were unsupportive. The pilot notes stated that it was humorous, unusual, contemporary, and appealed to young adults, so no one would want to watch it. It was also too New York and too Jewish. The pilot aired on the 5th of July 1989, which usually means it's a one-shot deal. It did not make the full cut. Instead, NBC chose The Nut House. What was that about?
Well, read the next line.
I will finish. If you listen to our Mel Brooks episode, which I wasn't here for, you know it was done by his production company, which I just found out because I didn't listen to the episode because I was not here.
James. He was here. He does not.
No, he wasn't.
James was here.
No, it was not. It was a
Gary.
trio that day.
Okay.
It was you, Chris,
Fine,
and
James.
Gary.
I'm sorry for trying to make it funny, and then all of a sudden I'm getting yelled at and being somewhere that I wasn't.
Now you know how I feel.
Okay.
No. You just make it
James
awkward
was here. He was under the soundproof blanket.
And the new blanket recording.
I know, I was going to say, I am really loving recording this blanket fort that we made. I vote for a pillow for it next week.
Yeah.
So, they figured the show was dead, so before it was even aired on NBC, they went to Fox to pitch it. Fox turned it down, which is amazing because they never turn anything down.
No.
NBC Vice President Rick Lundgren loved the show and gave the Seinfeld Chronicles 4 half-hour slots taken from his specials budget as a shot. NBC called Jerry and gave him the good news. Jerry felt like these 4 episodes would get people to like the show. He didn't think he had a huge hit, but he felt that he could capture an audience. Everyone in the cast was excited except for Larry David, because he's never excited about anything, and he thought, 4 shows? Oh my god, how are we going to come up with 4 shows?
When it's a show about nothing, it's probably pretty difficult.
NBC's only demand was they needed a female lead in the show, or else it would be no deal. They wanted more than just the waitress in the coffee shop. They wanted a peer. Larry David had dated a woman and broken up with her, but they had remained good friends. He figured that would be a good dynamic for the show as well. Many big names read for the part, including Rosie O'Donnell, which I cannot picture that.
That would have been awful.
That would have been awful, yeah. David suggested Julia Louis-Dreyfus, whom he worked with on Saturday Night Live.
The audition was very relaxed, and Seinfeld and Julia worked well together. However, she wasn't sure if she wanted to do it. She eventually agreed, and Jerry figured the show was unstoppable from that point on. Michael Richards remembers Julia showing up in cowboy boots, and he thought, yeah, this is our girl. David was still panicked about writing the 4 shows. He didn't know what to write about, and his only experiences besides the Seinfeld plot was writing skits. But much like the pilot, Seinfeld and David would just sit down, start talking about whatever, and then put it in the show. They took the first script to the executive producer, who told them to change this and add more conflict, here to which David said no and left. David told Seinfeld later that night that he can't take direction like that, and good luck on the show. Then David quit. David
this
quit.
is amazing. It sounds like the first few episodes of Podcast 42.
Yes, it does. So maybe we'll become big.
Maybe. Seinfeld assured David that it was just a phase that they had to go through, and eventually they would control the whole show, which did happen. However, over the course of the 9 seasons, David would, quote, quit many times.
I can see that.
Just, I quit!
Yeah.
Larry David was eventually banned from the network meetings. Only Seinfeld would attend.
Which is hilarious.
Yes, so no, you're a naughty boy, you cannot come in. They would still to try and change things, but Jerry was better saying no. Jerry said he felt that he was on the right track when the executives didn't like the script. David was made executive producer after the show entitled The Robbery Was Crashing and Not Working. David came in and reworked the whole story, thus earning him the title and a $20,000 bonus.
What?
In the butt.
No. Oh, Jason Alexander didn't realize he was playing Larry David until he went to David with the script and said that this would never happen, and if it did, no human would react like this.
Did you read ahead? Is that what
No, I'm just laughing at
it. This should be an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm.
David said to Alexander, "What do you mean? This happens to me," and that's exactly how he reacted. Alexander then did his best to play George like an impersonation of Larry David. After the 4 shows were filmed, everyone went back hoping the show would be picked up. Tartikoff offered to put the show on the next month, but in a very bad time slot, or wait until the summer and put it on after Cheers. They, of course, chose to wait on the Cheers time slot because they all had brains.
Now, watching the show over the years, you don't realize how much Larry David was an integral part of this show.
So important.
Like, without him, that show would not have done what it did. And he's the man, but he's the man behind the scenes that he deserved more credit than he got.
Absolutely. I feel like unless you watch a couple of episodes of Curb Your Enthusiasm and see how he reacts to everyday situations, you won't really understand that George Costanza is 150% based off of him.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So, with that being said, is Larry David's mother really like George's mother?
I bet they are because often
Jewish mother from New York. I'm going to guess it's not too far stretched. They're all pretty much the same.
A lot of the show is based on what happened to Larry David personally. It premiered after a rerun of Cheers and did okay. It connected with young adults, and the network was pleased and ordered 13 more shows. The network called Larry David with the news, who said that he didn't know how he was going to produce 13 more shows.
I just don't know how I'm going to do this.
I don't know how I'm going to do this, Jerry.
The rest of the cast was excited. David was flustered, and so he hired Larry Charles from Fridays, the TV show, not the restaurant, and Peter Melman, who Larry David found in the New York Times.
Which was essentially the Craigslist of the time.
Yeah. Larry David, Peter Melman was just a regular writer. He didn't write sitcoms or anything. I don't even think he wrote humorous pieces. He was just a writer for the New York Times.
We need you. Come here, now.
Often the directors and producers didn't understand the scripts. For example, there was one show where the characters spent 23 minutes in a Chinese restaurant waiting for a table.
One of the most iconic episodes of the entire series.
Yep.
Go on.
Caught right!
Caught right? We'll explain once you're done.
Okay,
Keep reading.
I don't remember that one. The network felt for sure that this episode would tank. They even pushed it back towards the end of the season. It ended up being the turning point in the show that turned it into a hit.
So this whole episode was written to be kind of a single, what's the word I'm looking for? A single location play. So it's a one room kind of few actors, and they're in one location, and the scene does not change at all, and they're all interacting there. They go to this Chinese restaurant, and they say, oh, it's about 10-15 minute wait. So they put their name on the list, and they're waiting, and they're talking about all this other stuff. They're waiting for the public phone, and other people are walking in and getting tables sat before them, and they're like, I don't understand, we were here first. So it was kind of to see if these 4 characters could carry the entire episode without changing the scene at all.
I do remember this
for
one.
30 minutes.
Yes, because
the
episode ends with them going, Seinfeld 4.
Yeah, they leave. They've waited the entire time for this table, and they're like, forget it, we have to leave so we can go see this movie that we're waiting to see. And as soon as they walk out, it's like, Seinfeld 4?
And didn't he dare, like, Elaine or George to eat food off of somebody's table?
Yes. Yeah. I will pay you $50 to go just walk over to the table, eat an egg roll, and walk away.
And
then George says, for $50, I'll put my face in their soup and blow.
I just love the fact that the guy who played Lo Pan in Big Trouble in Little China is the one who's calling out all the names.
Hot right?
And only JL would know this.
Yeah. I've seen that movie and I don't remember.
Big Trouble in Little China?
Once.
What?
A very long time ago.
That's on Netflix right now, I think.
Yes, and it's a great movie.
I
You
haven't
need to
seen
watch
it forever.
Yeah, no, it's definitely...
You gotta ride the Pork Chop Express and go watch that show one more time.
Larry David never liked actors to be unhappy, so the writing team started a chart to make sure each character had a story. For the second season, Seinfeld was moved to Wednesdays, where it would lose in the ratings to Jake and the Fat Man.
How dare they?
How dare they? They eventually moved it back to follow Cheers, to which David said, if they weren't watching it on Wednesday night, I don't want them watching it on Tuesday night. Thursday night either. He would walk around the office yelling, I don't want to be Cheers' little brother.
In the documentary, Seinfeld was funny because he said every time the Fat Man got fatter, he would lose in the ratings to him. That's all people tuned into Jake and the Fat Man to see if the Fat Man got fatter. He told it better because he's a professional comedian. And
of course.
So NBC wanted Jerry and Elaine to get together. Larry David resisted at first, but then remembered something in his past where he tried to have a physical relationship with one of his ex-girlfriends, but with rules. David didn't really explore the relationship between Jerry and Elaine too much because the show still wasn't doing that well in the ratings. He figured that they would be cancelled after the second season ended. Then he got a phone call that NBC wanted 22 more episodes. To which, once again, he panicked and said, I can't do this! How am I going to do?
Basically, he did say that.
Larry David said he cried literally over the thought of 22 more episodes. Jerry says his let David do all the worrying so he never worried. And the rest, as they say, is television history.
And what's funny is they never did go back to that.
No.
The season ended with them kind of, okay, we're gonna be friends and we're gonna have sex, and it's not gonna go any further than that, and everything will be hunky dory. And then the next season starts, and we completely forgot about that plot point.
I remember hearing that because I have all of the DVDs for all of the seasons, and they have the commentaries for some of the most iconic episodes. And that was one of the ones. They're like, I can't believe we left that season with them being together. Like, I don't even remember that.
All right, I'm going to push this show right here into the future. And a little boy has stumbled upon our show.
Okay.
And he listens to what you just said. And he's going to turn to his mom and say, what's a DVD?
What's a DVD?
Yes. What is a DVD?
A DVD.
What does DVD stand for, Michelle?
Digital video disc.
I believe it's versatile.
All right, now we're back to present time.
Okay. See,
now.
That was a pretty good answer. Well done.
So, James, you got to watch some more because I do think you're going to like it. I think of the humor is... I think if you give it a chance, I think you'll like the humor.
You're going to change my mind?
If you don't like it, you don't like it.
There are quite a few iconic episodes that you could watch.
The puffy shirt.
Should I take a chance on you?
Take a chance on me.
I'm glad I was going to carry on with that lyrics.
When I drove back from New York a few months ago, as most of you might remember, I went to New York a couple months ago.
Did you go to Waterloo?
No, but I went to Washington, D.C. to the Smithsonian Museum.
And she brought an apple and a banana.
And I went to the Pop Culture Smithsonian, and I was going to see the puffy shirt, and the puffy shirt was...
You would love it.
Was being tended to, so it wasn't there for viewing, and I was very upset.
My favorite thing in that museum was Bert and Ernie.
Take you to a place like that.
I did see that. I did.
We need to take JL to this.
In Washington, D.C.
Yes, and
I will be there in August, so I might have to make a trip.
Oh, no, definitely. 100%
it was
one of my favorite museums.
Here's what I picture JL walking through the museum, though. He's going to be like, he's going to read the little things on the wall that displays, and he's like, that's not right. No. Come over here. This is not how this happened.
I'm going to tell you. Somebody.
Hey, Bert. Hey, Bert. Hey, Ernie.
A couple of my favorite Seinfeld episodes were the opposite.
I've got a favorite episode.
What?
The opposite.
The opposite.
The one you watched?
High five. That one is great when George finally says, every instinct that I've ever had in my life has led me down the wrong path, so I should just do the opposite and see what happens. So he goes to lunch and he orders the exact opposite thing of what he would ordinarily get, and some beautiful, gorgeous woman is like, you just ordered the same lunch as me. And he's like,
I'm unemployed. I live with my parents.
And she's like, hi, I'm Betty. And like, whatever her name is. And
that was the episode you got the job with the Yankees.
Yes, it is. That's the episode you got the job with the Yankees. And that's the episode where Elaine starts failing at everything in her life, and Jerry
I do remember this one.
Jerry is like, oh, I'm even Steven. And he's like, see, one of my friends is up and the other one is down. And I'm always just in the middle.
I always break even. Hold on. And then she takes the $20, throws it out of the window.
And she's like, I want to see if you get the $20 back.
George gets the $20, and then Jerry finds $20 in his jacket.
And he's like, you could have thrown a pencil to see if that would work.
I like the episode where
like
George gives up sex.
When she doesn't know a topic,
Yes.
James.
Yes.
George does it play on my phone and go.
And then he gets really smart. And he starts learning Portuguese, and he can solve a Rubik's Cube and answering all the Jeopardy questions.
I just like it because he's still working with the Yankees, and he's giving batting tips to Bertie Williams and Derek Jeter. And they're like, we won the World Series.
Yeah,
he goes,
in 6 games.
In 6 games.
All right. Well, before we just recount every episode of all 9 seasons and describe them all,
every single one.
Somebody I can't respect what they do.
One more.
You got 21 seconds.
Okay, when Jerry and George start pretending that they're gay because they hear somebody eavesdropping on them, but then it turns out to be a reporter who's supposed to be interviewing Jerry Seinfeld about his comedy acts, and then she starts to meet him at his apartment, and then George is there, so he starts saying these things that make them sound gay, and then she makes a whole report about how the two of them are gay together, and they're like, not that there's anything wrong with that, but they're not really gay. But then George is like, this is how I can break up with my girlfriend because Jerry...
Breathe!
Okay.
You gave her 21 seconds.
I did. That was really good. That was really quick.
I love
That's what
that
he said.
episode.
All right, well, let's do, before we rate the beer, let's do fishbowl facts. This is a bunch of facts in a fishbowl.
Fishbowl facts.
There you go. You're going to do the theme song.
I am. It's going to be like the homework, but I'm going to just start chanting fishbowl facts. Because I love the name of this.
You do. I do too. Bunch of facts in a fishbowl. We're going to pick them out one by one, and hopefully you don't know what little stuff about Seinfeld you don't know.
I'm guessing I won't know any of them.
James doesn't know any of them.
Did you know that Monk's, the coffee shop where the characters most often find themselves, is modeled after Upside West Side Cafe, Tom's Restaurant, which is still in operation today?
Have you been there, Nicole?
I've been there, and I will give Chris the photo to post for everybody because I have been there, and
Already deleted it.
It was a magical experience. They have a lot of Seinfeld memorabilia and articles and everything posted all throughout the entire place. But when you're watching the show of Seinfeld and you're seeing them inside Monk's Cafe, it looks absolutely nothing like Tom's Restaurant does in New York. It is a complete set that was built out in Los Angeles and had nothing to do with New York City.
Does everybody know their names there?
When you really look at it.
What was that, James?
Does everyone know their names there?
Everybody, I'm sure, knows
Every
their
time
names
she
there.
said Tom's Restaurant, I thought it was
Wrong
the Vegas song.
show, James. Wrong show. I got where you were going on that one.
Where everybody knows your name.
Did you watch Cheers?
Yeah, I love Cheers.
I didn't watch Cheers.
All right. Nobody knows what Kramer did for a living.
He's Barney
He
Stinson.
didn't really have a job, though.
Please.
They never say.
He has a Chandler Bing job.
He's doing what he does. As
Does
he likes
anybody
to
know what
say
Chandler
when-
Bing did for a living on Friends?
He worked in an office.
He did
Yeah, he had a
advertising.
long, drawn-out name for a job which you just would not understand.
Well, no, but Chandler, in the episode where they're out in
Hawaii,
Los Angeles, he says, I'm doing what I do. That's what he says for his job. Okay. Mine says Stephen Buscemi.
Buscemi.
Steve
Buscemi.
Who,
Buscemi.
honestly,
Buscemi.
did you hear he was just named Sexiest Man Alive this year?
I did not.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it either.
Steve Buscemi auditioned for George. I didn't know that.
I would have watched that.
I actually would have watched that.
I really would have watched
I
that.
think Jason Alexander did a perfect
Yes,
job.
no, I think
so-
Jason Alexander did a great job, but Steve Buscemi is phenomenal, and I would watch him in that role.
Did you know the Farrelly brothers, the Dumb and Dumber Something About Mary Stuck on You people, wrote an episode?
Which episode?
Bob's Burgers.
It doesn't say Bob's Burgers. You're lying.
It's okay, because I think this fact's going to shock everybody. Newman doesn't have a first name.
That does shock me.
It does shock me. I feel like it
Because
was
even
Harold.
Kramer has a first name.
Yeah, and
Calypso.
I remember the big deal it was when Kramer's first name was revealed.
Cosmo.
Calypso.
But Newman has no first name.
That's crazy.
What else is crazy is in the fishbowl, there's one fact that's really big, and no one's picked it yet, including me. So my fact,
Well, I will pick the large.
Of course you will.
I will.
for the first
Hi, for
3
us.
seasons, the show relied on Jerry's stand-up act to bookend episodes and as transitioning scenes. In seasons 4 and 5, the show's writers ended the transitional use of his act. During season 6, episode plotlines got denser, so Seinfeld's stand-up acts at the end of episodes were cut, and by the end of season 7, the act was cut from the show entirely.
See, you put that large fact on a tiny piece of paper, and I have a really big piece of paper and has almost nothing there.
Oh.
Something about this seems ironic. In almost every episode, a Superman figure can be found on a shelf in Jerry's apartment. And I have another funny fact about that. There is an episode where it is the opposite Jerry and the opposite of all of the characters. What was it, JL? I can't remember what the phrase of it was called. Where it was like the anti-Jerry and everything, and Elaine.
If you silly Jerry.
Yes, the Bizarro
The
Jerry.
Bizarro.
That's exactly what it was. Thank you, Chris. And there is the Bizarro Superman on the shelf too. And
Because Bizarro
No,
Superman's a real
But
character.
I'm thinking of the episode, If You Silly Jerry, the one where they first introduce
that
Putty.
but that was with the pasta as the figurine. But there is a Superman figurine in every single Jerry Seinfeld episode because it's always in the background on one of his shelves.
Yes, because he's
But
a
when
diehard
there's the
Superman
Bizarro
fan.
Jerry episode where Elaine is hanging out with all the people that are similar to them,
15 seconds.
there is the Bizarro Superman on the bookshelves. I hate you.
I'm glad to see you pass.
But I would like to also point out that he's not known as Bizarro Superman. His name is just Bizarro.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
How would I know that?
I didn't know that.
We just call him Bizarro because, Larry David secured a $1.7 billion syndication
He
deal
jumped over you.
after Seinfeld ended.
You skipped James.
It's fine.
It
I
doesn't
don't
matter.
want- it doesn't-
That's payback for taking my paragraph.
Paragraph stealer!
I'm taking back my paragraph.
I am, and I'm going to take another one so I can
James,
steal
read yours
James's
quickly.
thunder
And
again.
I want to. Yeah, I want you to
I'm
go
going to
again.
read it.
No, see, don't let me go. She's desperate to know more facts.
I
Shit.
love
And
it.
you get the last
Okay,
one.
Michael Richards auditioned for the role of Al Bundy in Married with Children.
I watched that show as well.
I would
So why
actually
would
see
you read
that.
that? Because I did not watch
You
that
know,
show.
I would see that. I would watch that.
I would watch it, but I don't think it would be as good as Ed O'Neill's.
No, Ed O'Neill was awesome.
Yes.
But I think Michael Richards would put a really weird take on it. Do you want the last one? Because I have one I haven't read.
I've got a very long one. So
Okay, you go.
Festivus was actually not created by George's father, Frank Costanza. The fake holiday was created well before the series was even conceived. In 1966 by an editor of the Reader's Digest named Dan O'Keefe.
How did you give him such a tiny piece of paper for that whole thing?
I don't know. It's in small
That's what
font.
I said. And then look at how much was on this one.
We
One
recycle
single
here.
And I have one question. Who here celebrates Festivus?
I got a lot of problems with you people, and I gotta tell you about them. I celebrate Festivus. I'm gonna get a Festivus
You
pole
don't
for my
want
new
me to
house.
air the grievances.
Yeah, I'm going to read mine, then you go. Seinfeld turned down $110 million for season 10.
Yeah, that makes sense. He was kind of.
And this should have been in the fishbowl, but it wasn't. Seinfeld likes the number 9, and that's why they ended it on 9.
And JL, what do you have?
I have George Costanza is named after Jerry's friend Mike Costanza. Mike Costanza would later sue Seinfeld, David, and NBC for $100 million, claiming invasion of privacy and defamation of character. The case was dismissed.
Of course it was.
Fishbowl facts!
Fishbowl facts. Fishbowl facts.
Are you done? You ready to rate the beer?
I'm ready
6.
to be
Oh,
there.
wait, before we rate the beer. Any crumpets for any movies?
I have watched
Oh,
now forgotten the
asshole.
title of the movie.
You forgot the
Yeah,
title?
because I've been learning so much that I'm not like Nicole. Where
Was
I
it
embrace-
Game Over, Man?
It was Game Over, man.
Because I only know that because we were talking about it before the
Oh.
episode started.
Game Over, man. with the cast from Workaholics.
Oh, yes.
Which you think should be funny.
On Netflix.
And I think it actually comes up very short and very poor.
I never even heard of it.
It was put together on Netflix.
I think it just came out this month on Netflix.
It came out on Friday and I watched it on Saturday. So, I came out on Saturday. Yeah, I don't know.
You came out on Saturday?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
I'm coming out.
That wasn't the Alice somewhere.
No.
So it takes place. It's kind of like a Die Hard-esque movie. Terrorist, lots of funny-esque quotes that aren't funny, and then a lot of gore and poor taste jokes and stuff. You're like, if you've got an hour and a half and you don't want 2 hours in of your life you never want back, watch it. I finished it. It's definitely the weakest I've seen.
Yeah.
So I would probably give it a smidge.
Really?
It's
What?
probably a smidge.
Wow.
Can you tell me what a smidge is on your rating?
It's like a fingernail amount.
Ooh.
There's a smidge one up there.
Yeah.
On
It was
the
poor.
website.
What was the
there's
last
also
one that you
nibble,
gave a
I
smidge
think.
to? Do you
Because
know?
I think there is a nibble.
A smidge is like, honestly, it's like a little tiny little...
What was the last one you gave that rating
I
to?
don't know.
If you want to find out what it is, you have to go to Podcast 42 Show at .wordpress.com.
See, because I don't think I was here when he gave it the smidge, which is why I'm wondering what it could have been.
I don't know.
All of our
it
movie
was
ratings
cool.
and beer ratings are listed there.
They are.
Podcast 42
Ooh, that
Show.
hurts.
No, it was really like
Yes.
disappointing. And the girlfriend says, "This sucks."
Ooh.
And she was just like, it was combined, like, I just sat there going, when am I meant to laugh?
Well, we got emails.
Yeah!
Is it about Seinfeld?
Yeah, it's not about Seinfeld. But if you
Oh.
would like to email us, I'm sorry, go on, Chris.
We gotta rate the beer first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
But
please.
some trivia here for Podcast 42 people.
What is it?
The Smidge movie was Ernest Goes to Africa.
Oh, yes, that was bad.
Oh, I was here for that, but
And there are ratings under a smidge.
I don't remember you saying smidge. I just remember you saying how racially insensitive that movie was.
It's bad. That was bad.
I remember how bad that
like,
was.
This one is Ernest, at least kind of try to make you chuckle, but was in very poor taste. This was just
In Poor Taste? It's a good podcast, I've heard.
That's the podcast that helped us with the sound.
We're not. No. We're not doing that one again. No.
But if you
Then you
want to
should
know
listen to
the
that.
movies that are less than a smidge, then you'll have to go to the website on your own.
because there's only like 49 reviews on there now.
Wow.
Well, just type in Smidge, SMIDGE,
Ooh,
in the search
wow.
bar on podcast42show.wordpress.com, and you will find out which movies those are.
Now you picked up the email again.
I did. It's
Yeah,
podcast42.
We're not doing the email.
We're still going to rate the beer. Come on, Nicole, listen.
Wow.
Well, we are
I get you brought the beer,
It's her first
but
show.
you know,
Yeah.
we
About
need to
Seinfeld
rate it.
this year.
Who
So-
wants to rate Three Daughters Brewing Blonde Coffee Ale?
Now
I
I
will
was,
Blonde
slide
ale.
down.
I'm going to go first because I'm going to say this. First sip, I absolutely hated it.
Yes.
It was terrible.
Agreed.
Second sip, it was terrible. Third sip, it was terrible.
Rip.
Fourth sip, it was terrible. Fifth, no. I like it. I actually like it now. I'm going to give it a 4.
Yay! I give it a 6. I think it's nice. I think it has a nice coffee flavor, but it's also pretty light. It's not as deep or robust as a porter or a stout is, and that makes it a little more drinkable. So a 6 it is for me.
I'm going to agree with Christopher. I didn't like it to begin with. It definitely tastes like coffee and beer. A 4 for sure. And it has a pirate ship on there that reminds me... a cruise ship on there that reminds me of Chris's Adventures Away.
Yes.
Oh.
Very relaxing.
So I sort of cheated with this one because I didn't know Nicole was going to bring it. I've had it before.
And apparently I've had it before too.
So I definitely noticed a difference between can and draft.
I like
You are way gassier on the can.
Yep.
And the taste is different too. It's not as smooth.
No, of course not.
Can wise, I'm going to give it a 5.
Yeah.
Draft, it's a total 6.
Wow, okay.
Because
Because you made a reaction when I said 4, and I thought, oh, JL's going to tear me apart.
No, because there is a difference in this can wise than there is draft. It's more carbonated on this that you are going to be burping up a storm like no other.
Like Mr. Duncan.
Right, now we can do the email.
Yay!
Yes, okay.
Wait. We got to rate the emails.
Yeah, hold on. I give this first email without even hearing it a 3.
Okay. Well, if anybody would like to email us, our email
I give that a
address
4.
is podcast42show@gmail.com. 42 numerically.
Niner.
You stop doing that. It's so weird.
Breaker.
Podcast
247 Niner.
podcast42show@gmail.com.
Is the world ending outside?
It's Keely. Apparently, Frankie and Grace has gone stereo, and there's way too much bass out there for her.
It's all about the bass.
All right. I
No
don't know what
trouble.
any of that meant.
Words.
Derek said, recently, Steven Spielberg says Netflix movies aren't real movies. They're TV movies and shouldn't be allowed to win Oscars, only Emmys. Do you agree or disagree?
I disagree, but James, you're into the Netflix movies a lot. What do you think?
I see where he's coming from. Because actually, me and your young man Faraz had the discussion about the Will Smith one the other day, and about how
Right? One.
Yeah, but yeah, it was good. But the thing was, though, it kind of you do kind of go, oh, this is. You could imagine this split up into a series, into like a 2-part special, 3-part special.
But there are some other ones out there that, like, there was an Idris Elba movie. I think it was last year that came out where he was playing somebody.
But there was.
I can't think of the name of it.
J.O. stumped himself.
I did. I totally stumped myself, and now I gotta like consult the Oracle. Whereas I am.
Oh yeah, I remember that. And he
played a guy.
He went somewhere.
The soldier. He was a soldier.
Okay.
These are such descriptive.
Beast of No Nation.
Oh, I
haven't
remember
seen
reading about that.
But the thing is, they are impressively done. There was a lot of budgets there. There was to not win awards. I don't know, because the movies are very different to the shows. You look at something like Stranger Things, that is a show. That is set out like a show.
I am a fan of Spielberg, but I think he's being old man Spielberg, because this is the way that people are going to get media. This is the new... movies are going to be pushed through the internet.
I think we are starting to see the dwindling of it all. And the fact that...
I don't think there is a dwindling. I think that we are going to get a happy medium somewhere in here that's going to bridge it all together. Wow. And I think, like Chris said, he is being old man Spielberg on this, and being somebody who's a huge Spielberg fan. I think he's looking at it because he's going, oh, look at my mega blockbusters that I do, where I get this like infinite budget that I can do whatever I want. But here you go, you got these little things there, and he's like, oh, he's looking at like their Sharknado, and they're not really. They're still getting a good budget, and they're still putting out a great product. They're just not getting the mainstream release.
And his first
in a
movie
theater
could have been played on TV.
Duel was.
Yeah, was it?
Duel was a made for
I thought
TV
it was in
movie.
a theater.
But I'm pretty sure it was made for TV.
It just didn't. I don't know.
Looks it.
I agree, but you also look at the one was it Ready Player One that's about to smash out with us, and
I think that movie's going to be phenomenal.
It looks it. The book was good.
The book was really good.
Yeah, so I was impressed by the ending.
But again, if you're not Spielberg and you're one of these filmmakers that's getting the deals with Netflix, are you going to get that budget for a movie like that?
Here's my thing, though. With the more recent obsession with binge watching, I feel like TV series and hour-long episodes of TV series are becoming more of a common thing, because you can have basically an entire movie plot spread out within 8 to 10 hours or 12 hours of TV time with the budgets that some of these production companies, especially Netflix, are coming out with. Because you can have an entire story.
That is a TV series, then. That's a mini-series, which would be an Emmy.
But then, if you go back to it, something like the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Those were individual movies, though, that came out. You could do that now in a mini-series with probably the same budget.
I just feel like it's more common now for these things to come out as series than they are to come out as movies. So I don't disagree with him that these might be Emmy-worthy because they're TV movies. I don't disagree with that at all because they're not really the length or production quality of maybe a blockbuster.
No, I disagree. Bright was nothing but special effects. And
Yeah.
It cost like 10.
It was a lot of money, yeah.
Yeah, that's
that.
a definite movie. I mean, it's not like Stranger Things where it is a pure TV series, everything like that. These are actual movies that are 2 hours, hour and a half. Like, they are set for a movie.
I also think we're going to go to the phase that we're going to go to the movie theater and that movie will be dropping on available to digitally download 31 days later. I feel that we're
almost there now. It's like 3 months.
It's 3 weeks. Yeah. Well, I think Thor released in November and it was out.
Thor took a while to come out.
It was
Coco
March.
came out sooner
November,
than that.
yeah, and it was February.
Yeah.
That was 4 months. So, I mean, there is obviously the...
And with Disney
Last Jedi is coming out.
It's out.
Today.
It's out on digital right now, but
So, yeah,
Blu-ray-wise, it's coming
this
out
week, tomorrow. So, yes.
See, Disney's going to have their own push service.
Yeah.
And they probably will do original movies on there as well.
So, but my question then to you is, to say they can turn around and say the last Star Wars movie is available, you can go and see it in the movie theater, and 2 weeks later you can pay an extra $9 to stream it. Would you do it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you...
But what if Pixar...
I don't see them doing that.
What if Pixar made a movie on the new Disney service?
Yeah, exactly.
Would that not be considered a movie? Same quality Pixar always puts out the same length.
I think you're still
that
going to
wouldn't
get
be up
movies
for
that come
running
out to a
for
theater.
Oscar. I got you.
It's a never-ending conundrum. We don't know. I say they should still be considered for awards.
I say so too.
They should be considered.
They should, and I'm just saying that I feel like a series is going to be more common than a movie nowadays, because you can make the same quality of a movie in an 8-hour series for the same budget, and I feel like that's going to be the future of what's happening with our productions.
I see that point.
Because
what's the next email?
Our next email is from Julio8989.
You mean Julio?
Julio!
What's up, Julio? I mean, Julio.
Anyone sad over Toys R Us closing down? I asked this on our group and nobody wanted to comment. I guess because I lumped it in with Claire's, nobody decided
Nobody
to.
cares about Claire's.
I care about Claire's. I got like...
My ear's pierced there.
I got my second hole pierced there. I got 90% of my hearing collection from there.
No.
You guys are the worst.
Come on. Who's not going to think that? Oh my
Anybody
God.
who knows what it means to get your ears pierced.
That's horrible. That had to hurt like hell. And embarrassing to do in the middle of the store.
It was not.
Nicole, touch your toes.
I actually didn't know that Claire's was closing until you posted that article.
I fucking hate you guys.
You said it. Dude, I mean,
I hadn't heard anything about Claire's until you posted that article.
Claire's filed for bankruptcy.
I think we summed it up. Me and Nicole had the conversation. I would always love the Toys R Us commercials. It would always make me think like Christmas. It would always make me get happy and excited about toys as a kid. But every time you went there, they were so expensive you never bought anything.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I've been to Toys R Us.
I took the kid there.
Recently?
A few weeks ago. We had a gift card we had to use.
Okay.
I would beg my parents to take me there, and I would be like, can we please go to Toys R Us? And they're like, okay, we'll go to Toys R Us, but you can only get one toy. I'm like, okay. And we'd walk around for like an hour, hour and a half, and I wouldn't pick out anything. I was just not a kid who liked to play with actual toys. That's weird.
How things have changed.
I don't like to play with toys now, really. Go on. Go on.
I'm not taking the bait. I'm not taking
Why
the
not?
bait.
You take it every
I
other
threw
time.
it out there. Come
I'm
on.
not taking it.
I think because you got your Walmart and your Target where you can get your groceries and your toys in the same shot, that Toys R Us just didn't have a chance.
See, but the problem is, though, is that you couldn't get certain, like, toys for your kids at all of them. Like, they don't carry everything.
Well, the problem is you
So-
can't get toys for yourself and toys for your kids at the same place.
No, that has
Hi-yo.
nothing to do with it. So,
Thank you,
said
Chris.
yeah. Well, Alex likes a certain series on Netflix called Dino Trucks. And the only place that I've ever found that's not Amazon that carries them is Toys R Us. So, that's the only downside, is that it was like, if you wanted to see some of the actual toys before you ordered them off of like Amazon or whatever, it's like, oh, well, hey, I gotta go to Toys R Us to go and get it.
What I find weird is there's a shopping place called The Loop here in Orlando, and it's an outdoor mall, like any other outdoor mall. But they had a Sports Authority in there, which closed down last year.
They have Circuit City, too.
But what Toys R Us bought the Sports Authority and then remodeled it, and it's only been open like 3 months, 3 or 4 months, and now it's closing down. They spent all that money. They gutted the whole
They had
thing,
babies
and
because the
everything.
Babies on Us in there was their big thing that they had.
Yeah. Is that going out of business?
You know what?
As far as I know, Babies R Us is still staying in business.
And a lot of them are closing down, though.
Amazon are trying to purchase all the storefronts.
That makes sense.
For Toys R Us. They are trying to purchase all the storefronts.
Amazon, which is pretty much like has one of their delivery services based up the road here.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting
Why
to see
not?
if they get that, because then that becomes what they want to do. They want to make they want that market space.
Yeah.
They want a physical market space as well. So so your Toys R Us may become your Amazon R Us.
Fortunately, Amazon does it so well, but I fear they're going to be that evil company that you see in the sci-fi movies.
Yes.
That we're going to have to fight.
They are.
We're going to fight the Amazons.
Although I do love you, Amazon.
The entire Toys R Us store that they're going to take over is going to be a bunch of Amazon lockers, so you can go and pick up your stuff or return your stuff there without having to.
There's some of those by my house, actually, at the 7-Eleven.
You can get your Soylent Green there.
Your what?
It's people!
Soylent Green.
It's people!
She doesn't know what you're talking about.
It's people!
Nope.
Soylent Green
nothing.
is people.
I'm sorry.
All right, well, that's it for Seinfeld.
That's it for Seinfeld. It was a wonderful time. There are a lot of episodes that everybody should check out. You can find me on our Podcast 42 Show official group page on Facebook. Is that what it's called?
Sure.
Official,
we're only looking for you.
Official Podcast 42 Show group page on Facebook. And ask me about my favorite Seinfeld episodes.
That's a good
Or you
idea.
could tell me yours.
I like the one with Robin Williams and Seinfeld are on the couch.
That was Mork and Mindy.
No, Robin Williams was on a Seinfeld episode.
Was he?
No, that was on
It
Friends.
was called The Genie.
That was on Friends.
That's the one I'm quoting.
It was on Friends, not Seinfeld.
I like the episode with Keith Hernandez.
That was the funny one where Elaine was dating him.
Yep. 12 seconds.
There was a second spin.
I'm Nicole
They were in the
Fasone.
grassy
Oh,
knoll.
no, where are we?
Everybody else can do some work sometime.
Where are we, James?
We are on the internet.
We are everywhere.
That is true.
iHeart, iTunes,
iCloud.
Please go to Spreaker.
Yes.
Please.
That pays for us to get new equipment.
Yes, it would. And then I wouldn't have to buy so much beer. I might get reimbursed sometime. But I'd like Chris to get reimbursed for the equipment first.
That's okay. We should have some money coming to us. So who are you?
I'm J.L. Truss.
Who are you?
I'm Larry the Cable Guy.
Who are you?
I'm Nicole Fasone.
And I'm Christopher DeVos.
And bye.
Bye.
You are no longer listening to Podcast 42.
Some of the stuff you just heard might have been embellished, made up, or just plain incorrect. In other words, don't use this show to write a book report with. You will get a bad grade. Just like all the hosts.
But I'm not done yet.
JL's Beer Cooler is written and performed by Cremo. Cremo is an award-winning actor and musician. For all things Cremo, including more great music, visit Cremo.com. That's spelled Craymo. He is on Twitter at Cremo. Facebook, just search Cremo Music, and also on YouTube under, you guessed it, Cremo.